On a gray December morning in 1872, sailors on the Dei Gratia spotted a ship moving strangely across the Atlantic. Her sails were torn. Her course made no sense. And when they signaled her, nobody answered. Wisp would later call it the quietest scream ever found at sea. The name on her stern was Mary Celeste. She was not sinking. She was not burning. She had not been raided. But every person who had boarded her in New York had vanished, and the smallest missing object would become the center of the mystery. To understand why that empty deck still bothers people, we have to go back to New York Harbor. The ship was commanded by Captain Benjamin Briggs, a sober, careful man with a reputation for discipline. He was not the kind of captain who abandoned a vessel for panic. Briggs was not traveling alone. His wife Sarah came aboard with him along with their little daughter Sophia. The voyage was supposed to be routine. New York to Genoa, carrying industrial alcohol across the ocean. It sounded dangerous only if you knew what alcohol vapor could do. The cargo was 1,701 barrels of alcohol, not drinking liquor, industrial alcohol. Most of it was packed below deck, sealed in wooden casks. If those casks leaked, the hold could fill with invisible fumes, and invisible danger is the worst kind on a wooden ship. Mary Celeste left New York in early November. Ahead of her was the Atlantic, bad weather, and a crossing long enough for small mistakes to become fatal. 9 days later, the ship's log placed her near Santa Maria in the Azores. After that, the written trail ended. Then came December 4th. Captain David Morehouse of the Dei Gratia saw a vessel moving erratically in the distance. It was under partial sail, but no crew trimmed the lines. To a sailor, a ship without hands is not peaceful. It is wrong. Morehouse sent men across in a small boat. They climbed aboard expecting sickness, violence, or wreckage. Instead, they found absence. The deck was wet. The rigging was damaged. The hatches were partly open, but there was no fight waiting for them. Below deck, the ship was messy, but not destroyed. Personal belongings remained. Food and water were still aboard. The cargo was mostly intact. No blood, no bodies, no sign of pirates. It looked less like a massacre and more like everyone had left in a hurry. And there it was. The ship's lifeboat was gone. Not smashed, not floating nearby. Gone. That meant the people aboard had probably left Mary Celeste alive. The real question was why they would leave a seaworthy ship for a tiny open boat in the Atlantic. There were other clues. One pump had been taken apart. The ship had water in the hold, but not enough to doom her. The compass housing was damaged. Some papers and navigational instruments were missing. The clues did not form an answer. They formed a trap. Imagine being Captain Briggs. You hear water below. Your pump gives confusing readings. Your compass is unreliable. Your cargo might be leaking fumes. The weather has been bad. Your wife and child are aboard. You do not need proof of disaster. You need only fear of one. The most human theory is not pirates or monsters. It is a bad calculation made under pressure. Briggs may have believed the ship was about to explode, flood, or break apart. So he ordered everyone into the lifeboat, intending to stay nearby until the danger passed. But the Atlantic does not forgive temporary decisions. If the tow rope snapped, or if the wind rose, Mary Celeste could drift away faster than the lifeboat could follow. The safe choice would become a death sentence in minutes. That is the version that stays with Wisp. Not a ghost story, but a family watching their ship sail away without them. Food, water, shelter, and hope, all moving across the horizon while they sat in a wooden shell too small for the sea. But the salvage court in Gibraltar did not want a simple tragedy. It wanted suspects. The men of Dei Gratia had found a valuable abandoned ship, and valuable abandoned ships create ugly questions. Had they discovered her, or had they made her empty? Investigators considered murder. They considered mutiny. They considered insurance fraud. They even wondered if the rescuers had killed the crew for salvage money. But suspicion is not evidence, and the ship offered almost nothing solid. The court found no convincing proof of violence, no convincing proof of fraud, no convincing proof of piracy. Still, the salvage award was smaller than expected, as if the court was saying, "We cannot prove you did wrong, but we do not trust this story." That suspicion poisoned the legend. If the sea had simply taken Briggs and his people, the story might have faded. But because no explanation won, every empty space invited a new invention. A ghost ship became a mirror for whatever people feared most. Some blamed alcohol vapor. The idea was terrifying. Fumes build below deck, a hatch blows open, everyone fears an explosion, and Briggs orders evacuation. The ship survives. The people do not. The theory fits the cargo, but not every clue. Some blamed a waterspout or rogue wave. A sudden wall of water could flood the deck, damage the rigging, and convince the crew the vessel was doomed. But again, Mary Celeste was found floating. Bruised, yes. Condemned, no. Some blamed bad instruments. If the sounding rod made the water in the hold seem worse than it was, Briggs may have thought the ship was sinking. In a storm, with his family aboard, a false reading could be enough. And then there were the stranger theories. Sea monsters, madness, supernatural forces, secret crimes. They survived because the truth left no body to argue back. Would you have left the ship or stayed aboard? Tell Wisp below. The hardest clue is not what was broken. It is what was untouched. Food remained. Belongings remained. The cargo remained. The ship itself remained. Whatever happened was powerful enough to empty her, but not powerful enough to destroy her. That is why Mary Celeste became larger than a maritime case. She is a shape your mind cannot close. A ship is supposed to need people. When the people vanish and the ship keeps going, it feels like the world has broken one of its own rules. After the hearings, Mary Celeste did not retire into legend immediately. She kept sailing under new owners. That almost makes the story worse. The ghost ship went back to work, carrying cargo while the missing people remained missing. Years later, the ship met an ugly end. In 1885, she was deliberately wrecked off Haiti as part of an insurance fraud attempt. The vessel that had survived the Atlantic mystery was finally destroyed by ordinary greed. But the wreck did not kill the legend. If anything, it made the ship feel cursed from beginning to end. She had once sailed on without her people. Then she was sacrificed by people who wanted money. In both stories, the ship was used and abandoned. The truth is probably not supernatural. It is probably a chain of small failures. Bad weather, confusing water levels, alcohol fumes, damaged instruments, fear, and a lifeboat. But a probable answer is not the same as a proven one. That is the cruelty of Mary Celeste. The most reasonable explanation still ends with 10 people in an open boat somewhere in the Atlantic, watching the only safe place they had drift away. No monster needed. No ghost needed. Just distance. Captain Briggs, Sarah, Little Sophie, and the crew were never found. No final note washed ashore. No confession solved the court's doubts. No survivor returned old and gray to explain the mistake. The sea kept every witness. So the Mary Celeste remains a lesson in how mystery works. It does not need infinite possibilities. It needs one missing lifeboat, one unfinished log, one empty deck, and enough silence for imagination to move in. When people say ghost ship, They often imagine something haunted. But Mary Celeste is haunting for a different reason. She was found too normal, too intact, too ready to continue, as if she had arrived from a story where the people were erased. Maybe Briggs made the safest decision he could with the information he had. Maybe the sea punished him for being careful. That thought is worse than any monster, because it means the disaster was not madness. It was judgment under pressure. The next time you hear the name Mary Celeste, do not picture a cursed ship. Picture a captain looking at his family, a lifeboat swinging over black water, and a decision that had to be made before the truth was knowable. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Basic Format and tell Wisp your theory. Did the crew leave because of fumes, water, panic, or something still missing from the record?